In this video, we will be showing you the AIP and PAI theorems and how to use them. Before we can talk about the theorems, we need to learn some vocabulary. The line cutting through lines A and B is called the transversal. There are different names for the different angles that are made by the transversal in the two lines. Angles in the same place on both lines in regards to the transversal are called corresponding angles. Angles in between lines A and B and on different sides of the transversal are called alternate interior angles. Alternate exterior angles are angles on different sides of the transversal that are outside lines A and B. Consecutive angles are angles on the same side of the transversal in between lines A and B. And lastly, vertical angles deal with either line A or B and are angles directly opposite from one another. The AIP theorem states that if the alternate interior angles of lines A and B are congruent, then the two lines are parallel. The corollaries of the AIP theorem use congruent corresponding angles, congruent alternate exterior angles, and supplementary consecutive angles.
Let's see how we can use the AIP theorem to solve a problem. Here we have two lines in a transversal cutting through them, creating angles of 130 and 50 degrees. Now, in order to prove that A and B are parallel, we need to prove that the transversal produce pairs of congruent alternate interior angles. Now, if you look at line A is just a straight line, so it has 180 degrees. 180 minus 130 degrees gives you the remaining angle, which is 50 degrees. This 50 degrees is the alternate interior angle to the given angle, which is also 50 degrees, which means these two angles are congruent, which means congruent alternate interior angles. So because of the AIP theorem, A and B are parallel.
Next, we will be proving the converse of the AIP theorem, the PAI theorem, but first we need to know the parallel postulate. The parallel postulate states that if a point P is not on a line L, exactly one line through P exists that is parallel to L. Now we can prove PAI. Line B is similar to line L in the previous example, and the intersection of line A and the transversal is point P. The PAI theorem states that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the alternate interior angles will be congruent. To prove PAI, we are going to assume that it is not true. This means that we can draw multiple lines through point P that make different angles with the transversal, but that would make multiple lines through P, which directly violates the parallel postulate. This shows us that the converse of the AIP theorem does work, as well as the converses of its corollaries.
Okay, let's look at how we can solve a problem using PAI. If you have two parallel lines with a given angle of 30 degrees, what is the measure of the angle x? Well, if you look at the transversal is a straight line, so it has 180 degrees. 180 degrees minus the 30 degrees that was given, and you'd get 150 degrees. The angle that is 150 degrees also happens to be the alternate interior angle to x. So, because of the PAI, we know that x is also 150 degrees.
Thank you for watching this video on the AIP and PAI theorems. We hope that by watching this video, you can now better use and understand these theorems.